This is Scott the Fix-It Guy. Our goal with our videos is to empower you to be able to do the repairs on your own and save a whole lot of money and also get that great feeling of having fixed it by yourself.
If this video helps you, please subscribe to our channel. Today we have a series of Miele dishwasher repairs that are really easy to do, just take you a few minutes. This is mainly centered on the Incognito model and sometimes known as the G600 series, and really easy to work with. They're great dishwashers. We'll be covering what to do when they have the intake drain light flashing because it won't drain. Sometimes this can happen when the circulation motor will not create enough water pressure due to maybe a clog in the impeller housing, or often it's the run capacitor is getting weak and it just doesn't have enough energy to really spin the motor fast enough. We're also going to cover what to do when your door kind of falls open. It won't have enough spring tension, how to easily fix that. We're going to cover some of the parts that you need to get, and it's a bit of a long video, but I think you'll see a lot of easy repairs that you can do for your Miele dishwasher. They're great dishwashers. They last a long time, but it's hard to find people to work on them, and it's difficult to find the parts. One of the best things you could do when you need a part is to look on the side of your dishwasher door for a sticker that has the model number, and then you can call Miele USA and you can tell them the model number and describe the part that you think the name is, and they can probably help you out. They're really good people, and they can send you the part really fast. You can also get some of the parts on eBay, but I think Miele USA is probably the fastest way to do it. So enjoy this, and please let us know if you have any questions. You can email me at scottthefixitguy@yahoo.com, and please get a chance to subscribe when you can. We can send you a lot of new videos. So thanks for watching. Today we have a Miele dishwasher. This is the Incognito model, and the door spring is having trouble, so the door is not held very well anymore. You can tell by, if you let it go, it'll just free fall. There's no resistance, and when the spring had trouble, you could hear it pop. So probably the cable broke, and the spring made a twang type sound. If you ever want to adjust, if your springs are working and you just want to adjust the amount of tension that the door has, there's actually a little screw right here in the upper left hand corner, and I believe it's a Torx 20 screw, and by turning it right or left you can control how much tension is there. So today what we're going to do is remove this dishwasher from the cabinet and replace any of the parts that may have broken. So this one's being held in by, I can see a screw right here and a screw right here. We'll pull those out. We'll pull the dishwasher out. Miele usually gives you enough drain hose and fill line where you don't have to disconnect them under the dishwasher, but we'll check that. Usually you can just disconnect here and here, or sometimes on the side, and you can get the dishwasher out to work on it. The parts that we'll need have already been ordered, and they involve these cables. It's very rare that the springs themselves break, but the cables sometimes fray over time. So we have a cable here. There's two of them for the Incognito model, and there's also this part. We'll see if it's needed, but this is the screw that you're turning, and this either takes tension on or off of these cables, which are also attached to the springs. So we're going to go at it and see which one of these parts will be needed. Probably not all three, but at least one of them. So it's good to unplug it, and then we're going to take out a few screws here that are holding it in, and it could be that you have screws here and here, or it could be at the top. So in this case we're going to be going one at the top. That's it. Okay, that one just came out. And we have one on this side. just came out. All right, we're going to see if we can kind of wiggle it out now. All right, looks good. So we're also going to remove the bottom panel. The trim piece come out. And then we're going to lift a little bit to get the feet over over this rim. Back it up a little bit. Lift. I want to get this plate off. A couple of Phillips head screws to take out. A couple at the top. And then one here, I think, at the back. And this is also where you can find the model number. This one is a G858SC, as in cat, V as in victory, I plus G8 68SCVI plus. I get the screw out. I think this plate will come off. Let's see. Got all the parts off. Oh yeah, there's the spring. Yeah, I can see the cable that broke. We have to take out one screw here in the front too. Here we go. Okay, that plate's out. Close this. So here's the big spring. Takes most of the load. And here is the wire that was connected. I'll go and replace this today though too. But you can see plug guy goes in there, goes over that pulley, and then you've got a nice spring here, pretty big spring. So it's pretty rare, I think, that these springs break, but these cables can snap. That one. And then that goes over a cam right here, and then goes over to there. So you can see that's a sharp edge that would eventually cut that cable. I think this cam is probably supposed to be up a little bit higher. Doesn't make much sense for it to be there. But we'll go ahead and replace a couple of these components. So this is on the Incognito model. This is the right side, the right panel off, and this is where the water comes in to the dishwasher right here. And the water comes in from the fill tube through this line, and it goes past a little wheel that spins. This is called the flow meter. And a lot of times with the Miele dishwasher, when it's having trouble, this is a common part that may be having difficulty. And if you can just replace this, or if you can get it moving, it'll often fix many of the problems. Just took the modular connector off, and then I'm going to push this way, kind of wiggle, get this out. And there's a little diode in there that's sensing a magnet on a wheel. You guys can see that thing turning, that wheel. But if that's not turning really easily, that could be a problem. See, there's like little paddles, and those paddles are going to get pushed by that water pressure, and that's going to tell the computer how much water has come in. So they call it a flow sensor. And sometimes, this one's doing great, but sometimes that does not move very well. And if you can free it up and get it moving more readily, it's good. I believe it's magnetic, so that's why it's kind of moving as I move the screwdriver that has a magnetic tip. And this senses that magnet moving. I think the problem usually is this little diode. So you get this new part from Miele USA and just slip it in there, probably cure your problem where you're getting some of these codes and your dishwasher just is acting strange because it's not able to sense how much water is coming in. It's a pretty powerful magnet at the end of this flashlight, and I don't know if you can see this on video, but I'm moving that wheel around because it's got a magnet on it, and it's moving very easily. So that's a good sign. So I would check that, use a magnet, and make sure this little wheel here, like the paddle, can move really easily. And if that moves easily and there's still a flow sensor problem, then these are pretty cheap. You just replace this thing and it's going to fit in like that. We're just going to push it in, it'll click into place. We'll go and put the power connector back in. If you notice when this goes back in this green thing, the open area is facing you and the little tab is away from you. You gotta push that back in, click it in. There we go. So that is a very common problem with the Miele dishwasher, that wheel gets stuck or that little diode gets burned out. Easy to fix. This is the salt where you can mix with water to get rid of the hard water. We're going to fix this one right now. I want to come up to the top and take this plate and get this out of here so we can see better. And because this cable broke, we're going to be replacing that middle piece. But I'm also going to replace some of the other cables while I'm at it. And I'm going to take off this panel too. To get off the left panel, we're going to take out this Phillips head screw here. Get that one out. And then we got a couple on the top. Remember that if you want to adjust the tension once the springs are all and cables are all working, you're going to do it right here with this screw. And this can be done when it's inside the cabinet. You just open the door, there's a little access point, and it can turn to adjust how much tension you want. All right, those screws out. Okay. We got one in the very back down here. Okay, now that panel will come off. I'll wiggle that off the bottom. And we can see on this side that the arrangement is intact. We have a cable connected right here. It goes around this pulley. Comes up here to the spring, rides over this nice plastic cam so that essentially it's going to avoid contact with this metal, which we didn't have on the other side. It goes through here. So we're going to be replacing this component. And I need to take some tension off of this spring. Get this cable off. There we go. So I just kind of pulled that off. I'm also going to be replacing this one while I'm at it, just to make sure everything's intact. So the only thing I'm not replacing is the spring. Now I'm going to be going for this piece here. So to get this piece out, I think I push in on this one and then push this back away, I think. Maybe this has to come off first though too. Yeah, so I pried something underneath here, lifted this, so we can get that out. And then, I think we can slide this out now. I think it's being held by a little detent right there. Okay, get some backward pressure. All right. There's the old one comes out. New one goes in. See, there's a little hole there for that to go in. Click that in. This one goes down on top. Clicks in. So that's pretty easy. This goes over this cam. I'm going to move this cam though to get it really situated stronger. So we can give that cable some good clearance. This one definitely has shifted. It's not supposed to be that low. Kind of see that it came out of position. So the real problem here is that this cam that's supposed to be up about this high had broken tabs and had drifted down, and the cable was running over and over the sharp edge. So I can't really utilize this piece anymore because it's broke. The plastic just got tired and broke here. So what I'm going to do is get this cam up where this ridge is a little bit higher than the metal, and I'm going to put a little set screw in there to hold it. So this one's got the same problem where the plastic broke. It's kind of loose, but the height's good. So I'm going to put a hole here that goes through the metal and then put a set screw to hold it. Okay, that's good. That's going to make this flow over here really well and not hit that metal. So we're going to be replacing this cable. It goes onto the door hinge. Just pull it out of this channel, put the new one in. And this isn't the one that broke, but we might as well replace it while we're here. So, slide that in. Okay, now get that locked in. We're going to go underneath the wheel, come up this way, and we're going to hook up this spring. Let me get off the old one. So we're going to put that through there, get that over the wheel, and then we'll go ahead and take this one out, get this one over the cam right here. We're going to lift up the spring and connect these two. I'm going to use my knee to help me get some leverage. So So I got that connected now. Kind of see how it works. So good spring tension goes over the plastic cam, but before the plastic cam had broken, now we have a metal screw holding it, and it was rubbing on the metal here, and that's what cut it. Spring tension goes over and then goes over under the hinge. Let me put this back in position. We're going to do the other side. These are the old parts here. Here we are on the left side. I have to get this off. Pull that out. Put in the new one. Go through that little channel. Push it down in there. Alright, go underneath the wheel. Come up. Hook one side up to the spring. Come up. Take off the old one. Here's the new piece. So I'm going to use that same technique to help have my knee kind of help me. Leverage point. So I'm going to put my forearm against my knee, grab the spring, and lift. Connect those two. It's pretty good. So that's going over that plastic cam now. Goes down. We have good spring tension, and then to get the final tensioning, there is a screw there that we can turn once we reinstall it. Get a nice good tension there. Everything's in place. Put this panel back on. This is just mainly soundproofing. You can see how you're lining that up. Okay, we'll put these panels back on. Get this flap to lift up. And oh, by the way, I want to show you guys on the incognito model, this is the heater right here, and this is what's heating up the water. Comes up, and it has a reset button right here. You can see it, little red button. You can press that one. These are in case these get too hot. These pop out. And then to reset them, you don't have to buy a new heater. You can just take off this panel on the left-hand side, press it on that red button or that red button. Those are thermal cutoffs if it gets too hot. And you can see the ends of the element here. So this heats the water up as it goes through. It's pretty cool. That's where the power comes. That's where the power is coming in. On this side, there's the ground. There's the power coming in on the other side right here. And those are just protecting so if it gets too hot. So if you end up with no heat on the incognito model, maybe you just need to go in and press these little resets. Okay, let's get this panel back on. So I believe we put the bottom part on first. And kind of lift up for it to catch. Take a look at this. So there's if you look at this panel, there's a lip right here. It's going to go over this part. So that's got to be the first step. Let's come in at a diagonal, connect that lip. Now, I'm going to close this up. I'll open up the door. Get that up higher, then this panel lift a little bit. There we go. Those screws look good. And we have a screw here we got to put in too. Let's go ahead and start these two. This is the left side of the dishwasher when you're facing it from the front. Okay. All right. And then you got a screw here in the front too. So you gotta open the door. Oh yeah, we got really good spring resistance now. That's great. Got a little screw right here we got to put in. Okay. A bit too much spring tension on here now. So here's the adjustment screw. I've got a Torx 15. I can turn that. There we go. So a little more reasonable. It should come up when you release to about 45 degrees. Come off a little bit further. So I'm going left to loosen. That'd be a good way to remember. Or counterclockwise to loosen. Yeah. Yeah, about 45 degrees. That's great. So that's kind of how you tell if you want to have it adjusted correctly, is if you release it, comes up to a diagonal, you're good. And if you want to go tighter, you can go to the right. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Good way to remember. Here comes the left side, so I'm going to get this to go over this lip. Initially, so I'm coming in kind of at a diagonal. And then I've got this white part behind the silver part. Go forward. And this should kind of get trapped underneath the sound insulation. There we go. We'll put those screws in. Okay. In the back, I'm sorry, the screw in the back one here too, to hold on that plate. Got it. I'm just going to put this back in. Turn it off for now. Just going to kind of push and wiggle. There we go. This is the one that broke, and this is Miele part number 4898260, and they call it a spring mechanism in English, and mécanisme réseau in French. And then we also replaced these cables, and these were actually in pretty good shape, but good to replace them while I was there. And these are just called in English cable, and it's part number 4056561. Next we'll cover what to do for the Miele dishwasher that won't drain. Is a very common problem. What we're checking here now is the air gap that lives up near the kitchen faucet. I've removed the silver cap by pulling it straight off, and then a little plastic cap above it, and I'm putting a cleaning hose down in the very center of it, and that'll clean and go way down into the drain tube. So I'm going to turn on the dishwasher and set it to drain, close the door, and I can see that a little water is coming out here from the air gap, but there should be a big column of water about 3 inches tall, if everything is clear. So there might be something still blocking it. I'm going to put the cap back on, do a little bit more investigation. But these air gaps are famous for getting a little bit of food debris caught in them, which blocks the dishwasher from being able to drain. So I can see that there's still water left in there. So it's not doing the trick yet. So I'm going to pull the top off again. You can see a little water dribbling out, but it should be, again, a higher column, about 3 inches, about where my finger is. So that probably means there's something still caught where the dishwasher drain hose comes up into the bottom of this air gap. And using this brush, I can get that obstacle out of there. Could also use like a straightened coat hanger would work too. Just checking the water level. Looks pretty good, but may want to do the snaking thing again. So I'll take the cap off. And again, I'm putting this into the center hole. There's basically 2 holes, a skinny center hole, which goes down into the dishwasher drain tube, and a bigger hole, or outer hole, that goes down into the garbage disposer. And the one that's going to cause your dishwasher not to drain is the middle one, the center one, the smaller one. So I'm just working in there with the tool. This is kind of like a little snake that goes in. This one goes in about 4 feet, and I'm just going to see if I can get out any obstruction. This is actually what's called a CPAP cleaning hose tool that you can get from Amazon for about $7, I think. But they're pretty good. They fit into the drain hose really well. So I'll put the little cap back on. It'll just click into place. And sometimes you have to do this a couple of times to get the obstruction out of there. So I'm just checking the water level in there. And I'm also going to do a couple other checks. I took off the filter housing. I'm going to push in on this little piece with the one-way valve. There's a ball bearing in there. And I want to shake it around and make sure there's no food particles caught in there. Because if that gets clogged, it can let water come back in. I'm also using my finger to spin this little propeller thing. We call it an impeller. That's hooked to the drain motor, and that's what pushes the water out. I want to make sure that can turn pretty easily. You never want to push in on this thing because that's a temperature sensor. It looks like a button, but if you push it in, it can cause a leak. So I'm going to push this one-way valve back into position, and I'll put the filter through the triple filter back in. I'll lock it in place. It looks pretty good. And I'm going to work a little bit more to see if I can find out where the obstruction is. So I also looked at the lower spray arm to make sure it wasn't clogged. So I put the cap back on. I have the hole on the cap facing toward the sink. So if it gets backed up, it'll shoot water into the sink rather than on your countertop. So now looking in there, I filled it with water. I have a full contingency of water. The water's coming up all the way as high as the bottom of the white plastic filter handle. So then I'll see if it can drain out all that water. That's a normal amount of water. I'm also checking this upper spray arm to see if there may be some food particles caught in it, which makes it harder for the machine to wash the dishes. And there's also another spray arm that's at the very top. I'm going to push up. First I'll pull this basket out of the way, and then I'll reach up with my left hand. I'll push up on it and then turn it lefty-loosey so that it comes off of its threads. It's a little spray arm that sprays in on the utensils. I just want to check it too to make sure it doesn't have any food particles caught in it. Here's what it looks like. So to get it off, again, you push up as you turn to the left, and that'll spin it off. So there's actually 3 spray arms. This is the uppermost one. This one has some food debris in it, so I'm going to push the food debris down into the spray arm, and then I'll use some water to carry that debris out. I'll fill it with water by turning it upside down, and then I'll rock it back and forth and turn it over and let that water carry the debris out of this larger hole. So getting these spray arms really clean, there's no debris in them, makes a big difference in your dishwasher's ability to clean the dishes. So I put that one back in by pushing it up and turning it to the right, righty-tighty. And now I'm putting the baskets back in. So put this middle one back on its rails. Get that pushed back in. We have a lot of other repairs still coming up in the video, so please stay tuned. We're going to be working with some other common problems that the incognito dishwasher runs into. All right, so that looks good. We're setting it for drain again. We can hear that it's draining really well. If we look down into the sink, we can actually see the water shooting out. So I think we got the obstacle out of that air gap, and now we're back to a good draining. Take a look inside there. So we pull it back, yeah, and all the water is drained out. We have a Miele incognito dishwasher that is cutting out early. It's got the flashing red light, intake drain light going, indicating there's an error. And you can hear the circulation pump run, then it cuts out, run, cut out, run, cut out. So something's wrong with the pump. And when we open it, we have the intake drain light flashing. I can feel a lot of heat, so I know the heater's working. So we want to run a test. And to do that, first thing, we have to turn off the power. So press this button. Power's off. Close the door. Open the door again. I'm going to press the 2 and 3 button. At the same time, I'm pressing the power button, which is this one. So I press 2 and 3 together, power 1, and we have these two blink. That's indicating that we did get to the right service mode. It's called service mode 2. So intake drain light is flashing and salt light is flashing. All right, so the next step, this is from a manual. You can get online, and it's if you want to find it, it's G600/G800 technical information PDF, and it has great information on the incognito model. So we're in service mode 2. We want to access fault code, so we go access service mode 2, which we did, and then press the flashing program button 5. So number 5 is flashing. We're going to press that. And then we have 1 and 2 flashing. Let's see what we should do now. Okay, press the flashing program button 1. Okay, did that. One of the program button lights 1 through 5 will light up, indicating a stored fault code of F0 through F4. If none of them do light up, if none of those light up, then press number 6 one time, and that'll give you more possible codes. So press 6, and we get a number 4 lights up. So number 4 did light up, and that indicates if program button 6 was pressed, which we did, and we get a 4, that means we have fault code F08, and that's a water intake failure or the heater level switch. So maybe the water valve isn't letting in enough water. If it's the correct amount of water, it should be to a certain height. Let's take a look. Alright, so the water is just touching the bottom of the white plastic filter handle. That's exactly right. So if we still have a problem, then it may be the heater pressure switch is not working correctly. If you want to get rid of the water down there, you continue the cycle, what you can do is just turn the power button off, everything goes blank, and then turn it back on, and then pick a different cycle. Like we'll maybe pick a rinse and hold number 6. When you close it, it'll drain. If the drain system's working, I can hear it draining. That'll get all that water out. And then using that rinse and hold will get the water, the dirty water, off of the dishes until you get it fixed. Today we have a Miele Incognito dishwasher that has an F08 error, and the model number is G858SCV1+. And what's happening is it does a good job cleaning the dishes, but about 3/4 into the cycle, the pump is working for about 10 seconds, then it cuts off for about 5 seconds, then works for 10, cuts off for 5, works for 10, cuts off for 5, back and forth rather than having a continuous run. And then eventually it'll show you an intake drain error flashing. And if you do the code check, it shows F08, which says that the heater pressure switch may be having trouble. That's part number 5419692. So probably this is not the culprit. This is just a switch that tells the computer if there's enough water pressure being created by the pump. But the pump is probably not creating enough pressure because most likely the run capacitor that helps it run is worn out, and it's not producing enough energy to create enough water pressure. So this is probably what needs to be replaced, the capacitor for the circulation pump. So we're going to be replacing both of these though today, just to make sure, and we'll test out the heater pressure switch to test the values as compared to the new one. So to do all that, we're going to take out the bottom rack, and we'll also take out the middle rack, and we're going to remove some water from the sump. Let's get those 2 racks out. And we'll go ahead and pull the filter. We're going to use a little baling technique to get the water out of there. So just use a small bowl. You can get a lot of that water out, and we'll use a turkey baster when we get near the end there. Just so you know, when you're working in this area, this is a temperature probe, and make sure you don't push this in. A lot of people think it might be a button. If you push it in, it'll create a leak. So you need to make sure this stays in this position. So just using a turkey baster to get the last part of the water out of the sump. It's normal for water to be in there at the end of the cycle. It's called a wet sump. So Miele and Bosch both do that. But before you do a repair, it's good to get out as much of that water as you can. Okay. Get the machine out of the cabinet. You need to remove a couple of Phillips head screws, or there might be Torx 20 screws, one there is possible, or one up. This one has them in the up position, so we're going to zip those out, and then we're going to also remove the kick plate from underneath. So we got out one of the screws. Here's another one right here. These are just Phillips heads. Sometimes these will be Torx 15, I think. All right. So now we can wiggle the machine out. Sometimes there'll be some flooring at the bottom. You have to lift the machine up a little bit to get it to go over up above the flooring. So I'm going to lift up a little bit, pull toward us. Create like a little ramp using this paint scraper to help get it over. Helps get it up above. I'll do the same on the other side. up. There we go. So now they're both above the flooring. We can wiggle it out. Usually Miele gives you enough drain line and enough fill line where you don't have to disconnect everything, but just be careful as you wiggle it out. If you feel there's any resistance, you may have to disconnect the drain line and the fill line. And you want to make sure it's unplugged. Connected to the garbage disposal, like here, or it could be connected up at the air gap up by the kitchen faucet. So if it's at the disposer, you can just undo that, wiggle that off, and then when you pull the machine out, that hose can go with you and it won't create a problem. Here, get that hose off. Alright, so you have it wiggled out. I'm looking in the back. We're looking good. Drain hose is out. Power cord's out. Fill hose is okay. So now I can lay it down on its side so I can get to the bottom of it. So we can take off the bottom panel. We'll be able to get to all the important pieces. So we have to take off these little feet position sliders. One here, one on the other side. We'll put those back on the reassembly, and we're going to remove a couple of screws here, 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 and here. Get this off. So these are Phillips head screws, but on a lot of models they're Torx 15, just so you know. This is on the an older Incognito model. This one screws at a weird angle. Okay, so you should be able to kind of wiggle this off now. This bottom panel, get that out of the way. And here we have the heater pressure switch, and here we have the run capacitor. So I'm going to take a look at these and see which one we may have to replace. So to get to the heater pressure switch, all we have to do is get off this one modular connector, and I think we just pinch it and pull it off. Wiggle it off. There we go. And we have one ground connector here. We're going to slide this one off. And then, as I recall, I think this thing just rotates to come off. Pulls out. There we go. So there's the old one. So this little piece has to fit back into that rubber boot, and then we just pivot it. So you got it into that boot. Looks good. Just gonna rotate this to lock it in. So I got it in there. I'm going to rotate it this way so it locks in. There we go. And now we're just going to add the modular connector back. Right there. Wiggle it in there till it locks. There you go. Got it. All right, and then we're going to add the ground connector back right there. All right, got it. Okay, so now for the capacitor, it is hanging out right there, and to get to it, we're going to remove a nut right there, take it off. Let's do that. Using that nut, gonna take that off, and then we can get the capacitor out of there. Alright, so at this point it's good to ground out the capacitor. You don't want to touch those terminals because it can hold quite a bit of voltage. Ground it out, just make sure you have an insulated screwdriver. You're going to go between the two terminals, and that should drain out all the juice. Alright, so we'll go ahead and remove those two terminals. Okay, that one off, that one off. This is a 14 microfarads, can't remember the term, but 14 UF, and this is set up for 300 volts. Similar, this is 14, and it's set up for dealing with is up as high as 440 volts. It's a little more robust, but the main important marking is the 14. We got those on, and now we're going to put that in and just put that nut back on there to hold it. Bring it back in there into the cavity, put it through that hole, and then we'll put the nut back on the bolt to hold it. And that should solve that F08 problem, which is basically this motor not being able to produce enough voltage, enough water pressure. And that means that something's wrong with the motor. It could be the motor's worn out, but they last a long, long time. More than likely the capacitor is the part that's worn out. It is possible, though, that you may have something caught in this housing here where the impeller spins that's blocking how well the water can move. This motor gives up pretty late in the cycle, so if there was an obstruction in here, it would probably cause mischief or trouble like right off the bat as soon as it tries to start pressure. So the code says that this device is not realizing enough pressure, either that this was broken, which is possible, but more than likely this wasn't producing enough water pressure, either because it's worn out or because the capacitor's worn out. And in my experience, usually it's the capacitor. So we're going to see if this does the trick. These are really good dishwashers. Alright, get that nice and tight. So just so you know some of the parts of the Miele dishwasher, now that they're exposed here, this is the flap that moves up and down if water gets into the lower drip tray. Activates the anti-flood mechanism. And this is the connector to the temperature probe. This is your drain pump. In all my years, I've never had to replace one of these drain motors on the Miele. They're really good. This is a water pressure sensor right here that helps the Miele understand how much water is in there. It looks a lot like the pressure sensor that we just worked with. This is your circulation motor. This is the sump area. And this is the blower for when it's doing its heating cycle or drying cycle at the end. This is the salt tank reservoir and a solenoid that works with that. This one is for changing your setting to where it just does the upper rack by diverting the water. And this is just a little cover piece that goes underneath the blower housing. It slipped out. There we go. Let's see what else we got here. This is the capacitor that cleans up the line voltage coming in to power the dishwasher. Never had to replace one of those. And down here we have the heater relay, and this is an important part. If your dishwasher stops heating, very often this relay is dirty or needs to be replaced, and it's just a box sitting there. It's super easy to work with to replace. This is if you have an overflow, too much water gets into the dishwasher, it'll go down here and end up in the drip tray and then can evaporate. That's the run capacitor that we just put in for the motor. And this is a solenoid that redirects water flow. I can't remember quite what its job is. Heater pressure switch we just worked with. And this is the impeller housing. This is also called the partition kit. So if you have dripping out of your dishwasher, a lot of times it'll come out of this little hole here, and that just means you have to replace this part here. You can get it from Miele USA. Easy to do. You have your drain hose, you have your intake hose coming in, and that's about it. We'll go ahead and put this on its feet, see if it works. Put the drip tray back in. Make sure you get it the right orientation. You could look for this round indentation right here would line up with the float. So we're going to get it over this lip first. Bring it up. Get everything lined up, and we can add those screws back in. Okay, last screw for the drip tray. Just so you guys know, for the Miele, it's good to have the fill valve up a little bit higher, as we see in this case. You usually have to replace these pretty often for customers. For us, though, this one's been in here for years and years and years and hasn't failed. So when you think about installing yours, I think they recommend actually that it's on the horizontal plane and that it's up a little bit higher like this. Back on. So this just fits over these wheels. That helps you to adjust those. And we have one over here. So this screw has to be pointing out toward the front. Got it. Okay. Put it on its feet. So the circulation motor sounds really good after replacing the capacitor. We'll see if it can do the whole cycle now and not give up near the end.
Thanks so much for watching our video. We really appreciate you coming to our channel. Please subscribe when you get a chance by pressing the subscribe button and also the bell button so we can send you notifications of any new videos that come along. And we have a new thing here called the applaud button. If you really liked the video, if it was helpful to you, if you can click that, we really appreciate that. It shows your interest in our channel and your support, and can't thank you enough. Feel free to contact me at the email listed below, which is scottthefixitguy@yahoo.com, with any of your questions. And also, if you need to have a FaceTime meeting with me or a Zoom meeting, you can click on one of the links below in the description, and we can set up a 15-minute or 30-minute video conference where we can work on your appliance problem. So thanks again for all your support and for watching the video.